In the heart of the Valley of Mexico, the sun rises over the great city of Tenochtitlan. Stone temples stretch toward the sky, and the morning mist dances over mirrored canals. Golden banners flutter in the dawn breeze as priests chant at the foot of the Great Pyramid. This is a civilization at its apex, unmatched wealth, fierce warriors, and profound devotion to the gods. Yet beneath the music of drums and the laughter of market crowds, there is an unease, like the silence that comes before a storm. The Aztec Empire sprawls across the lakes, a web of tributary city-states held fast by the fearsome reputation of its emperor. Montezuma II sits on his towering throne of jade and gold, draped in the green plumes of Quetzalcoatl. To him flow the riches of the empire, and with it the murmured prayers of peoples who secretly whisper of rebellion. In distant Tlaxcala and Huejotzingo, never fully pacified, the subject nations yearn for liberation, their hearts burn with resentment. The Triple Alliance, forged in conquest and fear, is a brittle peace. Montezuma senses unrest hidden in those distant lands, knowing that an eagle can be pierced as easily as it can be lifted to the sky. Within the palace, Montezuma furrows his brow over sacred omens. The high priest reads the stars and turns to the emperor, voice grim. A comet bleeds across the sky. A pillar of smoke ascends from unknown forests. Ancient prophecies echo in the silence. A bearded, godlike figure will come from the east. Many dismiss it as mere superstition, but Montezuma wonders, could the promised feathered serpent have finally returned? Has the day of reckoning drawn near on silent wings? Prophet and king at once, Montezuma understands the fragile balance of his world. To the Aztecs, cosmic order is maintained by blood and sacrifice. Each dawn occurs because a man's heart was offered to the sun at midnight. They have endured enemies and famine with prayerful devotion. Arrogance, they believe, invites doom. And yet, in this hour of prosperity, his people are walking along the edge of that doom. The priests chant in reverence, but their eye for an omen has never been keener. Far beyond the ridge of Iztaccíhuatl, across the vast ocean, another world is stirring. Cortés and his army will sail under cross and crown, even as Montezuma watches the horizon. The white men's ships are like dark birds on the ocean, coming and going beyond sight. Winds whisper of a god with a beard, wielding thunder and horses. Are these omens from Quetzalcoatl, or some terrible fate? In the year 1519, the prophecy might be answered in blood. Hernán Cortés steps onto the shore at Veracruz with salt in his hair and fire in his eyes. His cross-like sails sway as smoke from bonfires curls over the beach. With perhaps 500 men and a handful of cannon, he enters a world unknown to him. Horses, creatures strange to Mexico. Eyes rear and snort in the surf. Every footstep is heavy with ambition and destiny. Word of Cortés's arrival travels like wildfire through the pueblos. In haciendas and villages, lords debate and prepare. The Tlaxcalan warriors, sprung from tribes that the Mexican never vanquished, sharpen obsidian swords in secret. When the Spaniards first clash with them, they try to throw the newcomers from the plateau in anger. But Cortés offers friendship instead of subjugation, and Malinche interprets promises of gold and vengeance. The Tlaxcalans pause, and then join the Spanish cause. A rare alliance is born, once enemies now bound as one by hatred of the Aztec eagle. Cortés and his mixed army begin their march inland, through tangles of jungle and ridgetop villages. Montezuma hears rumors that the serpent has ventured forth. Thousands of feet find their way toward the capital. At Tlaxcala's gates banners fly. The once indomitable warrior state has sworn itself to this foreign venture. New allies emerge, Totonacs who have chafed under tribute, Huexotzincas tormented by conquest. Each burned idol and feigned blessing adds fuel to the flames of rebellion. Soon, Cortés is no longer just Castilian. He carries the hopes and torches of an indigenous host bent on overturning the old order. As Cortés nears Tenochtitlan, the city rises like an emerald jewel on a lake. Montezuma meets him on the great causeway, dressed in plumes of gold. The emperor reclines on a high veranda overlooking the water, calm as a pond at dawn. He offers Cortés robes of scarlet and fine embroidery, as the ancient laws require. Cortés accepts each gift with measured grace, the land's wealth sliding into Spanish hands. The air is thick with incense and trepidation. Are these men indeed gods returned from the sea? Or just mortals with mad dreams? Inside the palace, the atmosphere tightens like a bowstring. The Spaniards speak through Malinche. Cortés listens with devil-keen patience. He pretends to admire Aztec rituals even as he plots their undoing. One morning he proclaims, in Montezuma's name, that the idols are false, declaring Huitzilopochtli powerless before Christ. Montezuma, as guest and king, is bound by the Spanish word. His people watch helplessly. In the silence that follows, even Montezuma questions, is this our God's vengeance for buried sins? Could it be true that those old gods are dying or sleeping? The uneasy peace snaps like a twig. Under a sacred banner in the city of Cholula, Cortés and his captains feast. The Indians sing songs and dance. Suddenly, trust is severed by a flurry of arrows. Ambushed, Cortés takes only a few wounds, but the Tlaxcalan allies believe treachery is at hand. In terrified reprisal, they slaughter hundreds in the temple courtyard. Cholula's ground steams with fire and blood. The music stops, grief and fury replace it. Shocked priests watch their gods tumble into the dust. Now there can be no return to trust. Back in the palace of Tenochtitlan, Montezuma holds his noble council. He sees Cortés standing quietly behind him and shakes with uncertainty. The emperor tries to maintain honor, but his courtiers are uneasy. Beneath the veneer of hospitality, Cortés has unleashed chaos. He spies the fractured loyalties of the empire. Whispers say he is no mere conquistador, but perhaps a living god himself walking among them. It is a dangerous game. Montezuma clutches the edge of his throne as if seeking an anchor. He feels the throne tilting beneath him, as though the gods themselves were shifting in their seats. At a great feast in the plaza, an attempt at peace, the unexpected happens. Montezuma's priests spot an Aztec noble dancing with a weapon among the crowd. Suddenly, revelry turns to horror. The nobles had gathered to revolt against the Spanish. As chaos erupts, Montezuma begs Cortés to leave his throne room and quell the crowd. But it's too late. Pedro de Alvarado, left in command with a nervous hand on his dagger, hears drums he does not understand. Thinking it a trap, he and his men charge into the mass. The royal dancers are cut down in an instant. The plaza runs red. The gods must surely weep. Night falls heavy. Aztecs rain stones and arrows from the palisades, and Spanish cannons answer in the dark. This is the fateful night of desolation. Cortés, realizing the lie of peace and fearing for his life, summons his men to the temple of Huitzilopochtli, but they cannot be safe under the enemy roof. Under the shroud of moonlight, he commands a desperate retreat across the stone causeways leading to the mainland. "All of you, go!" he cries. Over the bridge, behind him, around him, chaos. The night itself opens, swallowing friend and foe alike. Blood fills the water. Spaniards wade thigh-deep, escaping with helmets held high. Some drown beneath the weight of their own gold as Aztec spears find their bodies. Horses fall into the dark lake and never resurface. The Emperor Montezuma, caught in the storm of his people's wrath, finally succumbs to a shower of darts. Was it Cortés's hand that struck him down, or the rage of his own people? The question will linger like a curse. By dawn, only about 50 Spaniards survive. Those wounded and stunned make it to a small island, hearts broken. They have bled in a city they came to befriend, only to be shown its razor teeth. In Tlaxcala, Cortés and the survivors lick their wounds under the autumn sun. The Tlaxcalans, true to their oath, embrace the wounded and bind their injuries. In a makeshift chapel behind the battlefield, Cortés and his men kneel and vow to renew the fight under the banner of the Virgin of Guadalupe. Father Uncal echoes a prayer of victory and repentance. But even as they pray, the air has turned ominous. Rumors reach them of an unseen agent of death creeping through the valley. Tiny sores have begun to sprout upon the flesh of those who hid or tended the dying. Even the bravest pray that it is a curse which will pass. Late 1520, smallpox, a deadly stranger, is ravaging Tenochtitlan. It spreads faster than flame on dry reed. Every home becomes a tomb. The priests have no herbs strong enough to halt the fever. The healers have no cure for the pustules. Emperor Cuauhtémoc, Montezuma's brother, tries to rally the defenders through smoke-choked nights, but he too falls under the blistering curse. Within weeks, over half the city's people lie dead. The warriors who once marched by the tens of thousands are thinned to legions. The sky no longer blazes with battle drums, only with the plumes of fever. Believing the Aztecs broken, Cortés and his allies prepare for a final assault. Boats are built at Tlaxcala and Texcoco from the salvaged timbers of their own ships. Hundreds of canoes armed for war. Tlaxcalan and Texcocan warriors chant victory songs, seeing their oppressor humbled at last. Cortés raises cross and banner over the waterline as trumpets announce a new crusade. They march on Tenochtitlan through the causeways that rise from the lake like bridges of fate. On each battlement, the eagle knights stand ready to defend. In every heart, fear and faith collide. The siege of the city begins in earnest. Nightly bombardments turn the sky orange and black. Land and lake become tombs. Steel and fire replace incense and song. On the last spring day of 1521, the city is caught in a vice. Aztec soldiers fall by the dozen. The cross surges forward. Each battle stains the waters of Texcoco with red. Hunger gnaws at the defenders. Choked by smoke and stench, the people dig holes to bury the dead between each battle. Amidst the chaos, young Cuauhtémoc stands his ground atop the towering temple. His eyes burn with defiance. He wields his massacre furiously against cavalry and musket. But famine is a terrible foe. Even the bravest hearts can be drained by emptiness. Starving soldiers, motherless children, and the fever-stricken crawl down stone steps. Each temple becomes a battlefield, each home a tomb. Birds of prey wheel overhead, feasting on the fallen. After months of relentless assault, the walls finally give way. Grass grows tall in the streets as silence falls. The attackers seize control of the Templo Mayor itself. Ink-black smoke chokes the sky. The sun, once bright above the city, bleeds into the water. Cortés stands in the plaza, and at his feet kneels Cuauhtémoc, stripped of his feathers, arms raised in surrender. The last jaguar of the Mexica bows to the cross that replaced his gods. One last battle is fought in silence. In the eerie dawn of August the 13th, 1521, the great city is silent. Only the crackle of fading flames and the distant cries of grieving mothers remain. Spanish priests begin to baptize the captured, whispering of a single true God. Brass and steel seem more sacred than stone idols. In Tenochtitlan's central square, the image of Huitzilopochtli is no more. It lies in dust. Its golden mask has been melted down into trinkets to see if any other treasure lies within the cold earth. The conquerors feast and celebrate, the Aztecs mourn and vanish. What was once a hub of life is now a wasteland at the end of time. The temples have been replaced by crosses and chapels. The conquerors march under the banner of destiny. Cortés proclaims that they have broken the yoke of heathen idolatry, convinced they were ordained. Spanish friars read aloud from the Bible in the newly quiet plazas, reciting the tales of Canaan and Babylon, seeking echoes in their conquest. Aztec blood is viewed as the price of worshipping stone. In the plazas of the old city, crosses sprout like weeds amid broken idols. Priests chant and Aztecs weep. But in the dusty corners of the ruins, the old stories are not yet buried. The Quetzalcoatl legend lives on in the tongues of elders, who say that the white-bearded god returned and brought plague. They wonder if the gods were angry or simply hurt. Some speak quietly of the days when the Mexica ate the flesh of thousands in honor of their sun god, now reflecting that a higher power may have judged such deeds. Perhaps this, they whisper, is a very different kind of sacrifice. Across the silent squares, an old priest kneels before a broken altar, pleading for mercy and wondering if the four sons of legend are at last spent. Torah stories unfurl like murmurs in the wind. The walls of Jericho fell with trumpets, as did so many proud ramparts of history. Moses' people saw the sea divide for their passage, while Pharaoh's armies drowned in the Red Sea's tide. Like these relics of the past, the Aztecs see their mighty structures smashed by thunder and storm. In their thronged plazas, the echoes of their idols are as hollow as the crumbled statues of Babylon. The prophets of old had warned that pride invites doom, and so the surviving Mexica wonder which god's justice has touched them, or if they have simply run out of time. In the holy scriptures of the conquerors, similar lessons are told. The Gospels warn of one God's judgment on idolaters, and the Torah and Old Testament weave tale after tale of cities undone by divine plague. In the Quran too, verses sing of ancient peoples. Corruption has spread on earth because of what the hands of men have earned, it says. The nations of Tumud and Pharaoh faced wrath after defying their prophets. Now those verses hang in the silence of Tenochtitlan like a question. Is this their fate, or ours too? Do we stand condemned by the same book? Even so, these holy tomes offer no easy answer. The fall of Tenochtitlan sits among them like an unanswered riddle. Perhaps it was fate, a plan beyond mortal grasp, or perhaps the blind gods of war and plague simply had their day. The conquered and conquerors alike recite familiar lines, but still debate, was this miracle or disaster, divine justice or the chaos of men? Even Cortés, in silent hours, must admit that nothing in his faith or his dreams forewarned such swift victory. He prays for guidance, but hears only the whisper of the breeze through dead temples. By the time church bells ring over Mexico City, built atop ashes, one thing is certain: the era of sacrifice has ended, even as a new order rises from fire and blood. Tomorrow the friars will sing of salvation. Today the streets are littered with the bones of the old faith. Still, in that silent dawn a humbling thought glimmers. All empires flicker and fade. Like Israel in exile or Rome at Rheims, the Aztec story is a warning. No matter how mighty, no empire lasts forever. In the silence of the plaza, an old woman murmurs a forgotten prayer of her people, and even that prayer is answered only by the silence of history. And so the question hangs in the hush of temples turned to tombs. Why did the Aztecs fall so quickly? Perhaps because destiny was written in the stars of conquest, in portents of disease, in the alliances of chance. Perhaps because of the arrogance of empire itself. We may never hear a definitive answer, only the echo of distant drums that have long since faded. In the end, even the brightest flame of human glory can be extinguished, sometimes by fate, sometimes by folly, but always leaving behind a story for the ages. End of part. I Fade to Black, Part 2. Fade in on Lake Texcoco, dark waters at dawn. The conqueror's ships disembark once more, their sails cracked with the light of a new day. Tlaxcalan drums beat like thunder as Spanish muskets roar. The final siege has begun. From the hills, priests on both sides pray for victory or mercy. Cortés fixes his gaze on the island city across the water, the smoke of battle still rising where the true war is to come. In this moment, neither side knows if the gods favor destiny or despair. The assault tightens like a noose. The battered temple steps of Tenochtitlan are awash with blood and tears. The few remaining Aztec warriors fight with the bravery of ghosts, but even their faith is faltering. Night and day, Cortés's men push forward. Cannonballs shatter stone and flesh alike. Each volley is a thunderclap of claimed heaven. Moans of the dying mingle with hymns to the cross. Above it all, the sun beats down as if to test mortal endurance. Inside the city, hunger and disease cripple the defenders as surely as sword and spear. Children wail for water that no one can give. Plague stalks the streets like an invisible foe. Cuauhtémoc, the young eagle prince, does not falter. On the steps of the Temple of War he roars defiance as the Spaniards advance. The last temple is set ablaze. Prayer to the old gods becomes a plea for their return. Quetzalcoatl, if you are promised, now is the time, the warriors scream between battles. But their calls are met only by the echo of steel. When it is over, the living are a fraction of the people Tenochtitlan once fed. The last defenders are hunted down like jaguars. In the smoke of ruin, Cortés plants the Spanish flag on the temple stones and kneels in silent prayer of thanks. The high priest interprets the silver sky and the golden martyr's sun as proof that Providence has turned its eye to the valley. For the Spaniards, it is a miracle foretold. For the Aztecs, a horrifying ending they had long feared. Part 3. Aftermath and Omens. Night falls over the ruined plaza. The following day, the conquerors sweep into Templo Mayor. They topple statues and defile altars, exalting the cross on the summit. Aztec priests lie slain amid spilled incense. Spanish friars move in to bless the stones. The eagle and the serpent vanish under a sea of crosses. Against that cruciform skyline, one voice asks, have the gods truly been cast out, or only wreathed in deeper mystery? The question lingers as Cortés, now in a crimson mantle, takes Moctezuma's seat atop the ruins. Is this fulfillment of destiny or tomb of pride? No priest of any faith stands beside him to answer. Instead, a low wind whips across the plaza. It carries the scent of parched earth and burnt offerings. For a moment, every Aztec eye searches the heavens. Do the stars conspire to reveal a verdict? In the holy book Cortés loves, there is a promise that the meek shall inherit the earth. But a city like this, born of conquest and sacrifice, is not easily inherited. Its children must write new scripture of sorrow. Meanwhile, Tlaxcalan allies look on warily. They have won their freedom, but now serve under a foreign king. In the quiet aftermath, echoes of prophecy are heard. A Tlaxcalan chief whispers his thanks to Huitzilopochtli for delivering them. only to wonder why his god did not protect his neighbors. A Christian priest baptizes an orphaned Aztec boy on the temple steps, marking him for a new faith, as if to atone for the stone blood that seeped here. Outside the city's silent domes, Mexico City begins to rise, laying its foundations on ancient plunder. But the old gods are not completely stilled, in whispered Nahuatl. Mothers teach their children to fear the sun now that it brought death rather than light. Even the Spaniards sense something uncanny. Cortés, in his tent, writes to the King of Spain, calling these events divine favor. Yet in the flicker of his campfire, he pauses. He knows the Mesoamerican oracle of Quetzalcoatl, and he cannot dismiss the thought that he has lived through legend. Malinche, standing alone by the lake, prays, in her own tongue, that this victory does not hide a curse. Perhaps in her son's eyes she sees both conqueror and conquered, and wonders which future he will know. Epilogue. Narrator's closing voice. Now the great city is gone, but its story lives on in myth and memory. In Quranic words the Spanish may never hear, each nation was given a messenger, a fate both Cortés and Montezuma fulfilled in different guises. In Hebrew wisdom, idol has spoken vanity, as Aztec idols finally proved silent. And in Christian echoes, the fall of proud Babylon is recounted. Yet this fall is not written in any sacred text, it belongs to historians and poets. At last the sun sets on Tenochtitlan. The conquistadors set up their new kingdom, convinced of fate's favor. The Aztecs smolder in their grief, convinced of fate's cruelty. Both ask the night sky, why? Like so many before, they may hear only the wind. The drumbeat of history fades, unanswered. In that silent void, perhaps the only truth is that all empires, one day, must end. Like embers under ash, the Aztec legacy sleeps here, waiting for the dawn of understanding.